Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Semi-Professional Academic Podcast. As always, I am your host with the most tired-ass introductions of the world, Jacob Watts. And joining me today is the so wonderful, the avid book reader I aspire to be, and stream ecologist, Alexis VandenBerg.
Hello, everyone.
Oh my gosh, Alexis, thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness. I haven't spoken to Alexis in when was the last time we had like an actual like conversation and not just over text?
I left school like 5-ish months ago, so I guess somewhere between 4 and 5 months.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we still have a snap streak. We're good.
I know. I am notoriously bad at keeping snap streaks, but I'm really trying hard to keep.
Well, you've done it so far. I use snap streaks to keep up with the people I like, so.
Yeah. I am so bad at snap streaks. Like I rarely have something like important to say, but like I want the people that I do have snap streaks to be like, I promise I care. I'm just like not interesting.
Yeah, I see, and that's how I feel about phone calls is like, I'm like, oh, call me, and then we can catch up. And then I sit there, I'm like, I have nothing going on with my life right now since I'm so in between leaving grad school and a whole new place. So I use Snapchat to keep up with people that I normally would have seen every day or mostly every day. And it's kind of my main mode of keeping up with the folks because I'm so bad at phone calls.
Yeah, I'm bad as well because I always feel like I kind of like, I don't know, steamroll the conversation when I don't mean to. I just talk a lot.
Yeah, I am very notorious for that. Word vomiting all the way.
But see, this is why I like our conversations because we can just go like the whole time.
Yeah, we feed off of each other.
It's amazing. Okay, but before we get too much into that, Alexis, would you mind giving our audience just a little bit of background information about yourself?
Ooh, my least favorite thing to do. So currently I am working in Missouri as a research specialist. My job is partnered with the National Park Service through something called the Heartland Network. And my job is basically to do the aquatic ecology research side of it. So I get to sample a bunch of national parks in this network. It's mostly throughout the Midwest. And I get to look at the stream fishes and the bugs that are in the streams and use that to gauge how well these watersheds are functioning. And if we need to do something more to assist these streams in being healthier. So there's that. I had just graduated from Eastern Illinois University with Jacob, and yeah, and now I'm here.
Awesome. Your job sounds so cool, and I want to get into that a little bit more, but I gotta build we gotta build the timeline. We gotta attack everything.
Oh,
yeah.
I see. My job is my life, so I was like, oh, describe myself. Okay, what do I do?
No,
like I said, least favorite thing.
No, I totally get it though. Like I feel such like a hypocrite because I ask this question every week, and if someone asked me that question, I would immediately panic and like start crying internally.
I was expecting it today, for the most part.
No, someone's seen the show.
Yeah.
I have so many guests who come on the show, and even some who have asked me to be on the show that have not watched the show. What?
Are you calling me out right now?
You've watched the show.
This show?
You've watched my show.
Like, listen to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've totally done that before.
You haven't watched my show?
Oh. I keep telling myself to do it, and then I forget because I get busy, and I'm like, it is most of the time it's because I've listened to audiobooks and I forget. I thought you just said something because you just saw that I followed you on Spotify, which I thought I did before, but must have forgot. But I follow you on every other social media.
No, and that's so funny. Oh no, it's honestly so funny. So I've had the last 3 interviews that I have done And don't, for anyone watching at home, which I know apparently less of you are, they're not, how I interview people and when the episode comes out are two very different schedules. Because some episodes take me longer to edit, and then some I have like an idea of like spacing. So like I'm not going to interview two people who do similar things and put their episodes back to back.
Which
So
is fair.
I try to space that out. But yeah, the last 3 episodes that I filmed, none of the guests have watched the show, and two of them asked me to be on the show, and I'm just like, you guys don't even know. Like the one that I asked, that's my fault. But like the two that asked me, be like, well, how are you gonna ask to be on a show that you've never seen?
I didn't ask, at least.
No, I
I
know.
offered like when you first talked about it.
Yeah.
And I do in all intent mean to listen. I just am so forgetful. It's the blonde. It's the blonde hair.
Oh,
Just an
I,
airhead.
I get it. I mean, it's so weird. Like so few people I know in real life watch my show, and it's like strangers who mainly watch the show.
Yeah, but you're supposed to be able to reach out to large bodies of people. You
Yeah.
know.
It happens. So, maybe I just need to start interviewing strangers since they're the only ones who continuously watch the show. So,
Mm.
but no, but seriously, all fun. Like, I'm very glad to have you here. And thank you for supporting the pod. Because Alexis was, I think, the first person I told I was going to start a podcast with. Well, you and Val.
Was that in the grad pit?
No, we were walking around. We were on the disc golf course.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Um,
I didn't realize I was the first person that you bounced that idea off of.
yeah. And here
Oh,
we
that makes me feel even worse.
are. It's not like,
Terrible friend.
no, you're not. It's not an intentional thing. Like I've had people straight up tell me, be like, I'm not watching that show. That's cringy. And you just forget. Like I'm not like, I don't take it personal.
Yeah, yeah. It's not my normal genre of podcast, but also I like supporting friends. I'm forgetful.
Mood, me too. But before we get into like the job, Alexis, can you tell us a little bit about like how you wound up at EIU for your master's and like kind of like that educational path for us?
Oh, so I don't know if you even know this story. So obviously I had a rocky relationship with my dad. We're fine now. Things are fine. Classical teen angst probably. But also I had some issues with his drinking, not my own, with his drinking and whatnot. And so I knew I needed to find a place out of the house. And originally I was going to go to the classic U of I, but I was in a relationship at 19, as you do. And we broke up, as you do, because you're a sanely lucky person if you actually stick with your high school sweetheart. And very interesting. I'm lucky is probably not the best word, but you're a unique person. But so I was gonna go to U of I with him and follow him there. And I was originally actually gonna do veterinary medicine stuff. I don't know what exactly, but I kind of wanted to work with big cats or some sort of exotic species at zoos or something. So him and I broke up because we just weren't good for each other. We were young. It was our first relationship. Whatever. We both did things wrong.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I don't really want to go to U of I. The whole idea of going to this large school and all of that, I'm like, I don't even think I want to do vet medicine anymore. And so I applied to EIU because it was small. It had a program for environmental biology, I was like, okay, cool. Like that should get me into field biology. Fine. And sadly, because we know that I can be lazy sometimes. Lazy might not be the greatest word, but I saw that the environmental biology program did not require physics.
So real. So fucking real. So real.
So I was like, oh, I hated my first semester of physics and I don't really love chemistry. You didn't have to take a second year of organic chemistry or semester of organic chemistry. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this program. and that's going to get me out of the house, but be close enough for visits. And, I don't have to see my ex-boyfriend at school. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up at EIU. Just a weird string of events.
Honestly, so relatable. Like, I also wound up at EIU for a weird string of events. So crazy, so crazy. So when you went to EIU, did you have the intent of doing your master's there as well? Or did you have the intent of doing your master's at all?
No, so like I said, I am inherently lazy. Not really, but like I don't want to put extra work into things that don't need extra work. So I was like, I just need my bio degree or just some sort of bachelor's degree associated with biology. And I was like, yeah, then that was going to be it. Even that was part of the reason I didn't want to do vet medicine, because I was like, ugh, 6 years of school. I don't want to do 6 years of school. That's crazy. I hate school. I'm good at school. I just hate it.
So real again. So real again.
Yeah. And when I said kind of as much to my advisor in a very much more professional, proper way, I had just told him, I was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go get a job straight out of there and not come back to school. And he kind of looked at me and said, I'm going to grad school. I'm like,
like
okay,
you're not
okay.
like you're not done. You're not done.
Like he basically told me it would be a waste of my skills to not even do, like he said I had to do a thesis program, because I was like, maybe I'll do grad school and do the non-thesis. And he was like, you're doing the thesis. And this was before I became his grad student, a year and a half before I even worked for him. So, or a half a year before I worked for him. But yeah.
Wait, that's so interesting. Like,
You've met Rob, right?
yeah, I know how Rob operates. But like at the time, like, how did you like take that? Did you think it as like, oh, weird, or you're like, wow, like they really think like I have a lot of potential?
So reassured and oh goodness, what's the word I'm thinking about?
Validated?
Validated. Yes. It was very validating that he kind of said that. And then honestly, a friend of mine at the time had mentioned how she was also talking to him about advising. And he told her just to do, if she had to do grad school, to just do the non-thesis track. I know. I was like, I've been in like half a semester of class with him and there's no grades. Like what did I do that made him realize the kind of person I was? I found out that she was his intern the summer before, so that was probably why. I did not hear good things.
Oh, that's so rough. That is so rough.
Yeah, it's fine. I hope she never hears this.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't name names. It's fine.
I didn't name it. I mean, I full on drop names sometimes.
Oh,
but like that's not necessarily in my best interest. But it's season 2. Not enough people appreciated me choosing peace, so now I'm choosing violence.
Yeah. Well, given that she went to the school that I went to grad school with, there might be people that did know her. So, no names.
No names.
Fine. It's fine.
Yeah. If you don't name names, then it's just you telling a story. And then if you're me, if you name names, that's also just telling a story. But
there's 4 people this could potentially be. They had 5 interns, and I think 4 of them were women, and only 1 was a dude. So,
ambiguity. Oh my gosh. So, and I kind of want to like talk about that again, because I really feel like just getting, it might not even be a big thing, but getting just like a little bit of validation either from an advisor like or a professor about like how like you could do this and like you're doing like you have the skills to succeed, like really can mean like the world.
Yeah, I desperately need that in my life. That classic not believing in yourself, feeling like a fraud behavior, mentality still belongs to me. I do it a lot. And so getting that first introduction of feeling validated by somebody that I had yet to know really well it meant a lot, and it helped me keep going, and the validation throughout my career has helped me keep going. If my advisor wasn't pushing me towards being my best or telling me that I was doing a good job, I don't think I would have really succeeded. And I mean, I felt it a little bit when he kind of slowed down on it, probably just because there was barely any interaction at some points during my second year of grad school, just because, busyness and whatnot. It really did take a damage to some of my ego or morale or whatever, until I started sitting there. I'm like, I think I'm overthinking it. And then I got another validated statement and I was like, oh, definitely overthinking it. Maybe I was worried that writing my thesis or writing my proposal too slow knocked me down some pegs in the hierarchy scale of Rob's favorites.
And I want to say, like, as a member who is not part of that lab, no tea, no shade, just facts. The favoritism was so apparent. It was so
God.
It was so funny.
Yeah.
It wasn't even subtle.
No. Some people would straight up just not be talked to when people were popping into the grad pit. I mean, we know my bestie was the top favorite, so yeah.
Oh my goodness. So kind of like going back to that, this kind of like validation statement that you got kind of like gave you the assurance that you could succeed and do grad school. Did you like seek out like doing other programs besides EIU's masters, or did you like feel a sense of like comfort, like you knew the professors, you knew the atmosphere at EIU, and that's why you wanted to stay there, or like what kind of like was your draw factor for that?
Yes. So it's probably a little longer story than expected. Maybe it's not. I don't know. So I was an intern with the program. Shortly, a few months after that whole conversation, I got invited to be an intern with EIU instead of doing an internship with some biological station nearby in aquatics. So I was their intern and immediately fell in love with the work because originally I wanted to do herpetology. And for those that don't know what herpetology is, that is the study of reptiles and amphibians. Because, I love snakes. I think they're super cool. I think lizards are cool. Frogs can be cool too, but salamanders would pique my interest more. But I originally wanted to get into that, and I had said as much to my advisor, and he was like, okay, this is going to sound super biased given what I teach, but what about fish? Why don't you get into fish? And I was like, oh, you know what? I grew up fishing. I like fishing. Like, I don't have a problem with doing that as field work. I'd be interested to at least try it out. And my original plan was just to dip my toes in all these fields. I wanted to work with animals, not plants. I have a love-hate relationship with bugs, especially those of the terrestrial area. But so I was like, yeah, animals for sure. And then I found out that mammals are kind of watching trail cams for the most part, or trapping really quick. You don't handle them as much because doing fisheries is super hands-on if you're in the right spot. So I was their intern, and this is so annoying. So I was their intern and I applied for the graduate school position because they posted it. And I was like, I was like, hey, what do I do if I was interested? I asked the wrong person. I didn't ask my advisor. Should have just went to him straightforward. He's kind of intimidating.
I want to vouch for someone who has seen this man and has had a class with him. He's very intimidating. He's intimidating for the sense of being intimidating. Like, he gets nothing from it except maybe validation. I don't know.
I don't know. That's just some personality trait of his. But so I had asked the lab manager at the time, which is not the same that they have now, what to do if I wanted to be one of the graduate students for one of those positions. And I basically got told to apply, send in my CV, send in my resume, which looked terrible, by the way, because I didn't know how to write one. And so I wrote it like resume, not a CV. So it was very short. I got so ripped into about it. Anyways, I even went through an interview and they kept saying mock interview, like practice interview. I was like, I don't understand why it's a practice interview. I freaking applied. Like, I want the job. What do you mean practice? I was like, whatever. I did the interview. And I get approached the next day and was asked if I was serious about wanting to get a position. I was like, where have I not been serious? I apparently just did not show enough enthusiasm. I don't know. It was, I think the lab manager at the time I don't want to say didn't want me to be in the lab, but I don't know. I didn't love that communication, and I kind of lost a lot more respect for her as a person and as a mentor, or who was supposed to be a mentor, because she wasn't taking me seriously, and she made Rob feel like I wasn't being serious and that I didn't actually want to be a graduate student. And I had to wait months to figure out if I actually was going to be in the lab, which was stupid because my dear friend got the position the second she asked him, months before, or like a month before I interviewed. So I was like, wait, why did she get it? She's not even interning with the lab. It's because I asked the wrong person and she was relaying the information incorrectly to Rob, making it seem like I wasn't serious, which was annoying. Like, I don't know if she thought I just wasn't a serious person or what, but I wanted to stay as a graduate student. See, I told you I was going to tangent. I wanted to stay as a graduate student because several of my very good friends were in the lab, which the person that I was previously talking about, who's been on your podcast, of course, she and I weren't even friends yet until after she started. So, but there were two others that I was super close with. One is still my very close friend. And I didn't want to leave because I'm a homebody comfort person, and didn't want to start over because starting over sucks. And I knew the lab really well, and I felt like I could still get enough from it because I did my internship during COVID. So I lost a lot of the potential for experience just because we were running some projects that we were supposed to. We weren't helping the Department of Natural Resources like we normally do.
And you brought up like a really good point. I mean, like multiple good points, but like one that I want to drive home is like, it's so important to go where you feel supported, where you feel comfortable, and where you feel capable. Because I think especially in a master's program, I mean, like in most programs are, but like especially in the masters, it's such a limited time frame. You don't really have time to do a full scale large project. Like not really. Like there's definitely larger projects, but like I mean, at maximum you can do like maybe like 2 years worth of data collection and then write it up. And that if you do it in the summer. But I think knowing that you felt at home in the lab, you had people that you liked in the lab, and you felt like you were in an environment where you could succeed, I think that's so important. And like I'm glad that like you chose that for yourself. But yeah, that lab manager sounds like a pick me. I'm not gonna lie.
I'll tell you who it was. And you'll think it's I think you might already know who it was just being at the school who used to be the lab manager, but not naming names. You know, just bad luck with those.
Oh, I swear.
Because we know that I'm sure you've heard some drama with the one you followed. So
yeah. I feel like I was like fish lab adjacent because
you were adopted.
I really was.
You and Sean were both kind of adopted into the fish lab.
Mm-hmm. I loved it though. We had a good time.
Yeah, we're fun people. We drink like fishes. We're fun.
Second year grad school though got like a little lonely because I don't know what happened, but like that's when like everybody was writing their thesis, and like I really feel like we had a really strong sense of community like the year and a half, and then like the last semester of second year, everybody was just fighting for survival.
Yeah, no kidding. I was writing my proposal, so I wasn't as around as I wanted to, but you were also not in the grad pit a lot because you were on that special TA now then at that point. So your office hours were strange because you were teaching the class, and I hated being there. So I never got anything done. So I would do a lot of stuff at home, and then plans would get made when we got together later or we were in the field.
Yeah. No, I honestly hated being in the grad pit, and I want to stress this. Like, I loved seeing like the people in there. Like, that's the only reason why I ever went in there. That's the reason why. But like, really though, like that place was horrible. Like, it was disgusting. It was dingy.
It was the floor was so. Do you remember the marks I left on everyone on my shoes with my shoes? Because I would just get dust all over my shoes and tap somebody with my foot just because I
Yeah,
thought it was funny. It was everyone's legs. There was maybe a shoulder a handful of times. Um,
there was my arm multiple times.
I used your chair a lot as a footrest, anyways.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, there was my footprints were all over that seat, but you told me it was fine.
yeah. I wanted to say she did ask for permission before she did it,
Yeah, yeah.
and I was just like, yeah, sure. If I'm not there, like, go nuts.
I I'm sure it did not help that you had one of the loudest biatches right behind you, who would not stop talking because she had such an issue with attention.
Have you
She,
met me?
she couldn't pay attention to anything.
That's so incorrect. Like, I really loved that like we sat by each other because I love your passion for things. Like, you get so animated because you care about things so much, and I think that's so cool.
Ugh, but I feel like that puts a lot of people off sometimes.
That's because people don't care about anything.
I guess. I just sometimes worry that I'm too scary for people. I'm a lot at once. It's fine.
What if I use that for the title of the podcast? I'm a lot. It's fine.
Well, go for it, dude.
Oh, my favorite thing to do is to take things people say out of context and use them as episode titles.
I think that's so funny. Do it.
My favorite one that I've probably done so far is I really like vows. Like, nothing was horribly broken. Nobody died. And then I also love an episode that came out this season with Kaylee Smith. I don't think I'd get along with somebody who doesn't need therapy. Honestly,
I kind of love that.
right? I was like, I feel so seen. But I love the grad pit in some regards though, because there were so many good stories behind that, like in there.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I miss about EIU. Did I like the school? No, I miss my people.
Mhm. I honestly feel like if I didn't like the people in there so much, I wouldn't have survived because I mean, like, look at what happened to me. Like,
Ugh,
look.
look at you now. Look at you now, though. I wouldn't have survived. I think I would have been one of the like 3 people that dropped out from our program. I would have been number 4.
It would have been number. I feel like to me, it's so crazy that like in multiple, like for multiple reasons, and like I'm honestly not shading anyone. Like, I'm bringing attention to the school. But dude, I want to talk about this because it's crazy. So, for those of you who don't know, when you do your master's, you have your coursework and all the like other credits and da 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 that you gotta do. But part of it's, and Alexis and I were part of the thesis option. So we had to actually do a thesis. But given that some people's thesis projects are sampled in the summer and people start at different times, you can walk and like go through graduation without defending your thesis, but you don't get your master's until you actually defend your thesis. And it's so wild to me that so many people from our cohort, from before our cohort, and the cohorts before, like, did the whole thing and just for years have not even touched like writing their thesis.
Yeah, so 2 of them minimum. One I think is also kind of on that boat, but I was hearing that they were doing a little bit more and making more progress. But 2 of them, I've gotten separate messages for them saying, "Oh, it's been like 8 months and I'm finally re-looking at my thesis and I have no idea what I did before." It was like, holy cow. I at least try to look at it once a month.
Yeah.
um, yeah, but I hope I don't not look at it for a year.
Yeah. Well, and like, I'm not shading anybody like from our cohort for doing it, but like I'm kind of alarmed that like the school isn't, like, the program doesn't push more graduates to get their theses done. Because I mean, from our cohort, only three of us have like defended our thesis.
Yeah, that is interesting. I don't know if I have really good theories about this. I know with my lab, we are completely self-funded.
Mhm.
Um, so unless we do have random TAs here and there, which when I first started, we had one. Two. We had two, and the second one dropped out. Yeah, well, there are some personal things happened, and it happens. But otherwise, we're completely funded, and the school doesn't pay us to do anything. I'm pretty sure we give them a chunk of our grant money. So I guess maybe it depends program to program, but you would think that it would get flagged, but they're still getting the 2 years master education. Um, Although they pay for us to go. So I don't know. It is interesting. I never even thought about it that way.
I haven't either because I mean, like from the cohort before us and ours, like just out of those two, I think if I did my calculations correctly, six of us have defended.
Yeah, you're talking about our cohort and the cohort before.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
second years when we were first years.
So none of the fisheries people have from that cohort, from the cohort before mine. None of my cohort has either, but some are actually a lot closer. We just left, so um,
Yeah,
yeah.
but like, don't your projects usually take like 2.5 to 3 years to do?
No, we do a lot of overlapping projects. So like, I have the 8 years of uh pre-long-term restoration study data. So I have data from 2009 to 2015 before my 2 years of data. And I will have a third year of data, but that's for publications. I'm not going to put it in my thesis. And a lot of their projects are like that, where like, oh, people were collecting data years before, but they're not going to overstretch into a third year of data. They're just going to whatever, pass the baton off to somebody else to look at it.
Did you find well, and like kind of switching gears, but like that brought me up. Did you like having that kind of like overlap in projects? So like you had multiple people to help you, or did you find it like a little bit not necessarily like annoying because like everybody was just there trying to do their job, but like did you find it like a little stressful trying to keep track of like, oh, this is his data, this is my data, but we're doing this, and because like I just feel like that would have been a lot to keep track of. Am I wrong or?
Um, Honestly, it wasn't as bad as you think. There were 8 of us when I was graduate student after 2 people left. So there should have been 10, and it ended up being after the first semester, it ended up being 8. And especially with my last year, which are the people that, we got super close to each other as a group. The year before, there was some headbutting because of that switching off crew leads and switching off who was in charge. But my second year, we all just functioned so well. Like, we knew each other so well. We joked about it being trauma bonding, because it was. And
Another great episode title. We talked about it being trauma bonding because it was.
yeah. Yeah, but it was, I mean, we were on the river 5 days a week for, I don't know, 6 months straight. Um, it was ridiculous. And so we were around each other enough, and we all had good personalities that didn't butt heads. And it helped teach me when to defer to somebody else or when to be a leader, and trying to recognize when to be what. Like my friend Josh, who had a very similar project to mine. Because we had similar projects, he and I were able to run each other's crews. So I got too stressed out, he would go do it. He would tell people what to do, or he would help with things. He got too stressed out teaching people fish ID or whatever. I was immediately in charge of making sure that the data got recorded properly and fish are measured and weighed correctly, all of that. So we were able to basically co-lead with each other because we had multiple projects like that. My first year, there was a girl, and we butted heads so much because she couldn't handle not being in charge. I was an intern with them before that, so that overlapped with them. And I think there was headbutting because, one, I don't like getting into fights, so I would sometimes take it, but I would have a very, very angry face. And that wasn't helpful. That made it a toxic work group because I was silently fighting with her. She was verbally fighting with me. And then I would go complain to my friends. And some of them might have been in the lab. But I think now that we don't work together and we don't have to worry about the hierarchy issue, when there wasn't supposed to be a hierarchy, we're better friends for it. So.
And honestly, I feel like that's so important because there's some people that you absolutely love and have a great time with, but then in the workplace, just something just doesn't happens to where like it's not the best fit.
Yeah. I've run into issues where I'm such good friends with somebody and would sometimes butt heads with them in the field just because different ideas, and some people did other jobs longer than others, and either that would be forgotten or it would be forgotten that the other person still knows what they do, even if they hadn't done 3 extra weeks of it in the past month and a half. So there was kind of that issue because I was doing a lot of stream survey work. And then once I got onto the Big River work, I think it was forgotten that I was originally trained on the Big River. So I didn't need to be retaught. And because I can't handle, and everyone knows what mansplaining is. And a woman can definitely mansplain. It's over-explaining. I cannot stand being over-explained to it. It doesn't matter what gender you are. If you over-explain something to me that I very much well know, I do get snippy. And so I did run into that issue a lot. But most people would apologize after. My first year, the person never apologized, given there were some personal things happening. So there's a lot more underlying factors, which is why I've learned to just kind of let it go.
I think you gotta pick your battles on some things, and just some things are just not worth a screaming match for. I'm not saying like it would get to that point, but like just saying.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been in a screaming match with friends, because I think friendship's more important than one little tizzy.
Right, yeah. I was just saying, like, I didn't think it would lead to that point, but like, so we've finished classes at EIU. How did we, and you have this job, and you've talked about it a little bit, but like, how did you find like this like mode of work? And like, did you know that immediately after, and like, I know this, but they don't know this. Did you go into the mindset of, after my master's, I want to get a job, I want to work in this kind of field? Or did you thought about doing a PhD? Because I know the fish people were notorious at EIU for being able to do multiple conferences and talks, and like got very well trained and had a lot of experience in presenting. And you got to network, make a lot of connections. And did the thought of a PhD ever cross your mind, or was it always kind of like, I want to go into work right after this?
So, PhD did cross my mind. I was never going to do a straight out grad school, because I've been in school since 4 years old, and 20 years of school makes you kind of tired. And, grad school kind of kicked my ass. Yeah, you are crazy. But you want to teach, and I don't. So I thought about getting my PhD, but it's kind of hard in this career path to get a PhD and not teach. And I'm pretty bad at teaching. I just am. I don't know how to relay information to people in a way that they understand. I've gotten busted for it at some outreach events with children. Like, no, Alexis, you cannot tell a kid that you rip the fish's arm out and then cut it like a tree and get its age. Like you would a tree by counting rings on the bone structure. Which I did say that to a child.
You told a child. You told children that you gut a fish.
No. We just tore out its arm. It lived.
Did you say it like that? It lived?
I said, basically the equivalent of a fish's arm. We popped it out of its socket and it was fine. It just didn't have that arm anymore. I think I did tell them that the secondary way was we took bones out of its head to age. But it's like that I was like, I probably shouldn't be a teacher. I also got busted for it doing it with adults by explaining that to them, how we euthanize silver carp, and I was wrong for it.
Wait,
we throw them on the bank. Sometimes we crush their head. They're invasive. I don't know what you want from me.
what they want you to do? Just be like, we don't do anything with them.
Shoulders and laugh. I don't know. I thought that was ridiculous. I'm like, they're adults. They're like, you can't just say that to people. I'm like, they're adults, and one of them's been in the field with me. Wait, like, what do you mean? I can't say that to them. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I get the child thing. I do get that. Like, like maybe like not say.
I maybe dumbed it down a little bit better, but I did say we took out its arms and aged it like a tree.
Yeah, that probably wasn't. That won't go on the highlight reel. But yeah, I agree.
With this mentality of talking to children like they're adults. I don't know.
But then, like, when you talk to adults like adults, you get flagged for it as well. Like, I don't get that, because, I mean, yeah, of course you should euthanize like invasive species if you got the permits to do so. Like, why not?
Yeah. Exactly. It's like more expected than not. But apparently telling them how we did it was not preferred. I should have just said we leave them on the banks. But there's several ways we do it, and not all of them are PG or PG-13 even. So
yeah, but I mean, like, come on, like, it's biology. Like, the things that we do. I mean, like, if, like, think about it, like, when I'm looking at gall wasp, for example, like for my master's thesis, like, I essentially have to drown them in ethanol and then preserve them.
I mean, I've murdered gallons and gallons of fish by drowning them in formaldehyde. So
yeah, like, the things that we do in biology, like, if you take it out of the research concept and you take it out of the concept that is like animals, and like we do it in a humane way, it'd be a horror movie of what we do.
Yeah. There's a joke that when we die, that our personal hell will be what we did to the fish during field work, during our research.
You guys got so many fish. It was insane.
My 2022 year sample was 86 gallons of fish.
Oh no, absolutely not.
No. Because I did that secondary project for my thesis.
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
Yeah.
This is another thing I want to talk about. Like, you guys, and then we'll actually get to the path after graduation of the original question I asked you. But while I'm here, like, I'm gonna ask this question. I do this great thing of asking my guest a question and then stopping them and ask another question about their explanation to my question.
That's all right. I definitely already forgot your original question anyways. So.
But when I find it, this isn't really a question, this is more of like a statement. Like, I find it so weird that, like, you guys, and I mean, like, you guys by like other grad students, like, had to interview for positions in the lab. Like, I emailed my advisor, never even met me, and I told him like what I was interested in, like very broad topics, like nothing specific, like nothing. And he was like, yeah, come on down, like, I have a TA position, so it's yours. And I showed up.
Yeah, Rob explained it to me once why we do it like that. It's because we're super grant funded and we don't have a lot of TA positions, and the ones that we do sometimes have, it's hard on the student. It's probably harder on the student because not only are they expected to go out in the field, but they're expected to, do their regular TA duties. And I think that's part of it, is because the biology building paid you guys, but Rob's grants paid us, or Rob and Eden's grants paid us. So this was grants gifted to us to help facilities do the research. And I think that's part of the biggest part of the thing is we were grant funded, and it had barely anything to do with the biological science building.
No, and well, like that, I totally understand. But I also find it weird that like even other students who got TA ships interviewed. Like I never interviewed with the school. I literally was just like I literally applied, got in, and then applied for a TA position and then got it. Like
Yeah.
like I didn't interview for anything. Crazy.
So the ones that got TA positions did interview, but the positions that they originally applied for wasn't TA positions. It was like, oh, like we also have these 2 or more projects. What would you be interested in? And that was part of it. Also sometimes experience is why they give people TA ships. Like the girl in my cohort, she got a TA ship because she had no experience in fisheries, absolutely none. And she didn't interview. She was a grad student, or she was an undergrad student at the school. And I think that happens more often is they don't have to interview. Like one of the who were then first years when I was a second year, he also didn't interview. He got it because he knew Rob. And it's because Rob wants himself to look good, so he wants to interview people that he thinks that look on paper look good and will make him look good, and then do the whole interview process. It is what it is. People tend to be like that.
It is what it is. So back to the original question of PhD or work, we got past the point of where you were not approved in your methods of teaching children.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't know if I really want my PhD yet. I think maybe in my 30s I might. We'll see where I'm at in life if I'm done with doing field work. But given that right now I did go into the workforce and it's not enough field work for me, which we still do field work. But it's not as crazy as how we did it at EIU where we were out in the field 24/7, not really 24/7, but 5 days a week for 10 to 13-hour days for several months straight. It's like, oh, I do a week of field work this week, 3 weeks later, then I'll do another. Except when we did the big river park, which was maybe 3-4 weeks of field work of like 3 to 4 days of field work, which almost just doesn't hold my attention as much as before. So I know if I did my PhD, I would not be happy being in an office. So I made the right choice by not getting my PhD right away.
No. But you are also the type of person that will be on the boat until your hands are physically raw.
It's because I'm allergic to gizzard shad.
Which, can you explain it to the what that is?
So they're fish, obviously. They're they're usually a bait fish, but they're super slimy and they have fine scales which help with the sliminess. I think, I don't know, this is a personal observation here. Usually the smaller scales, the slimier the fish. At least between silver carp and gizzard shad. But sometimes people in fisheries develop fish slime allergies, which I have. But I wasn't sure which fish was doing it because it wasn't all the time when I was in the field working up fish. And I've further cemented that I think it's the gizzard shad specifically. It might also be a suckerfish family, or fish from the suckerfish family. But these gizzard shad are so gross. And I got buckets upon buckets of it my last season sampling with EIU. And it completely worked my hands raw, as Jacob said. So the other week we were doing field work and there were like 2 or 3 gizzard shad. I swear, just 2 or 3. I haven't had a problem basically since we did the Buffalo River, which was our bigger river that we sampled this year with this new job. And I was like, my hands are peeling terribly. And they weren't even doing that in the Buffalo River. When I was working with suckerfish, there were a handful of gizzard shad, but I don't think I really worked them up. And there's not that many. Like, I'm even trying to remember if I'm right, if there are gizzard shad at all. But anyways, 2 of them. We worked up 2 of them. I came home and my hands are just and sorry for people that are sensitive about this, sloughing off skin. And I'm like, it's 100% gizzard shad. And it's so annoying because my friend likes to fish and he uses gizzard shad and he never understands why I don't want to touch it. And I'm like, because my skin comes off of my hands. I don't understand.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
Yeah.
No. And like if you do decide to do your PhD, I mean like I think I'm doing my PhD very young. I think I am. Because I went straight from high school, like into college, like we all did, then straight from college to my master's program, and then straight from my master's to my PhD.
It's exhausting, isn't it?
I get tired a lot, but this is what I want to do.
Which is good. See, I don't know what I want to do. I know that I'm super interested in taxonomy, and if I were to get my PhD, it would be something fish taxonomy based for sure. Freshwater fish, I should specify, because saltwater, gross.
Oh, I love being adopted by the fish lab because just on principle, I've come to hate so many types of fish.
Oh, largemouth bass.
Yeah.
F those guys. The worst. They are the most invasive native species ever because they just keep stocking them. You do like a bass. And then I'm going off on a crazy tangent here because it infuriates me. Like people like to call them trash fish or rough fish. I don't like either term. Non-sport native species. I think there's a better way to say that. I can't think of it right now. Maybe it's native non-sport species. I don't know. Regardless, they call them trash fish and they'll throw them on the banks because they're biting their bait and they're mad and they eat the bass. And I'm like, no, I don't think you understand. You need fish that eat the other predator fish because otherwise you're going to get little teeny tiny bass and then you're not going to have big bass anyway. So F you. We also call the guys that fish for bassholes. Or bastards, depending on the day. And it's just I hate largemouth bass.
Yeah.
There's nothing appealing to them. Except they fight. I don't care. You can catch catfish and those are cooler and they fight.
Literally. Yeah. So Alexis, this is a question that I've been asking every member. Well, not every member, every guest I have on season 2. And this can be answered in multiple ways, but if you were to go back in time during at one point in your professional or academic career, what's a piece of advice you would give to past Alexis?
Be enthusiastic about wanting the job.
I thought it was going to be the Alexis report.
Oh. Wow, I forgot about the Alexis report. It didn't exist, so I don't know what I would go back for it.
Did you know it always didn't exist, or did you like for even hot minute?
Are you kidding me?
I know for a hot minute.
Maybe every once in a while you guys would like write a joke list and you were gonna hand it to me? Sure, but I never even got handed an Alexis report. It was just a really funny thing that they like to joke about. And because of who I am as a person, everyone thinks that I get angry really easy. And they might maybe not be terribly wrong, but it's because I can be expressive because I know that people find it funny. And I think that's kind of my sense of humor is like how expressive I can get about things. So they bring up this Alexis report, which as a joke is basically them saying if Alexis was on her best behavior or was doing a good job, like basically a weekly evaluation that they all joked about existing, even though I was probably one of the people that needed to be evaluated the least, at least in the beginning. Other than my quote unquote explosive behavior, I obviously never got in fights with people because I don't like actual confrontation, but I would jokingly get mad about things. And I think a lot of people was like, I can't tell if she's kidding or not. And I'm like, no, I'm definitely kidding. I could really care less that you dropped something on my foot on purpose. Like they would purposely like lay fish on you or something, or put fish on your hat bill or in your hair. But there were other, like, just like the small little pick on jokes that I would jokingly get so mad about, and they never understood. Like our professor Scott, he always liked to pick on me, and I think he thought it really actually bugged me because I would always play into it. Because he would always talk about how red my face would get. I'm like, I don't know. I'm sometimes wondering if I could get myself worked up enough to get it to do it on purpose about something entirely different. But also I don't like being pointed out in a group of a bunch of strangers. If it was my fish people, my fish people and honorary fish people, of course, because you were in one of my Scots classes.
Yeah.
But
multiple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all a blur.
It's all, I block it out, honestly. Yeah. So
which classes did I take?
So what do you think would be the piece of advice you tell your past self then?
I kind of always regretted not doing this, and I don't know if it would have helped me get where I'm at to this day, but I think it would have helped me get somewhere. EIU doesn't, unless you actually sign up for it, you don't get as much research experience as you want, that I've noticed that you get with other schools as an undergrad. But when I went to community college before I went to Eastern, I had this opportunity to do field work and apply to do some undergrad research, and I didn't do it. And I wish I did, because what I would have gotten involved in was aquatic space. And so I think it would have either helped me or might have led me down a slightly different path. But I think I would have ended up in aquatic ecology anyways, because that research would have been on aquatic macroinvertebrates. And I didn't do it because I was too busy working, which is fine and fair. And I'm happy where I'm at. So I've done nothing wrong, but I've always sat there and was like, I wish I did this research. It would have helped me be a better researcher, because I still sometimes don't know if I know what I'm doing, especially when it comes to writing papers. But I don't know. I'm kind of always curious, and I kind of want to tell myself, like, hey, you should give it a try. But at the same time, I'm so happy where I'm at that I don't know if I need to change anything or advise my past self to change something.
That's such a healthy way to look at it. Like, there's things in my past that if everything turned out the same and I could have just, like, done things like a little bit easier or avoided some unnecessary troubles, then, like, yeah, I would have told myself. But, like, yeah, I'm very much like you. Like, I'm very happy with where I'm at, and I feel like that's a very appropriate thing. Like, you can realize, like, ooh, like, I could probably might have gone about this like a little bit differently, but
yeah, I've made so many great friends that I can't regret the choices that I've made. I love my people. I miss my people. Like, they were my people, and if I had to change something, that might have changed that, and that would have sucked. So
that's so sweet. That's so sweet. Like, oh my gosh, that's so, oh wow.
Yeah, I'm sure they all don't feel the same way, but that's fine. I get attached, so.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which can be good. It's a healthy amount of attachment. Maybe a little unhealthy for me, because I'm not sure that they're as attached. So some of them text me all sad and tell me how much they miss me, though. So I really appreciate that.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, Alexis, thank you so much for coming on to this episode of the podcast. I absolutely loved having you. It was so fun to catch up, and I am just so proud of how much you're killing it.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I hope that I continue to kill it, even though, this job doesn't hold my attention as much as I want it to anymore.
But
give me more field work.
Hashtag give Alexis more field work.
Yeah, right. Please, she wants it.
Yeah. Alexis one time told me she'd rather do field work 24/7. Not 24/7, but like instead of take classes and write a thesis, she'd be willing to do just that much more of field work if it meant that she got her degree.
True story. This is such a true story. I like the field component. I'm not a strong writer, and stats makes me want to commit a crime.
Honestly, so real. But much love, much light, and hopes for a not really like a busier fieldwork season, but like fieldwork that captivates your attention a little bit more.
Next year is supposed to be a little more fieldwork crazy, just because it's all bunched up after June all the way up until December. So just because of what basins we're surveying.
Like, well, Alexis, thank you again. And as always, I am Jacob Watts, and I don't get paid enough. Have a good night, everyone.
And I have a master's education.
Yeah. I mean, I get paid better now, but it's still not enough. But anyways, I'm Jacob Watts. Have a good one, y'all, and I'll see you next week. Bye.